In this lesson, let's learn about Active Directory physical components. First, let's learn about domain controller, then global catalog server, and after that we will move on to Active Directory size, and finally we will sum up the lesson with the keynotes. Domain controller is a physical server or virtual server installed with Windows Server operating system. To become a domain controller, the server must be installed with Active Directory, domain services, its tools, and DNS service, and then it must be promoted to be a domain controller. The domain controller, or DC, hosts Active Directory database that contains schema, configuration, domain, and application partitions. There can be multiple domains in an ID forest, but each domain controller can hold the domain partition of only one domain. For example, this domain controller and this domain controller hold only the domain partition of the itlifeskills.local domain, and this domain controller hold only the domain partition of the euro.itlifeskills.local domain. Domain controllers synchronize their configuration and schema partition data with other domain controllers in the forest. A domain controller synchronizes its domain partition data with other domain controllers in its domain, but not with domain controllers in other domains in the same forest. For example, when we add a new user account in this domain controller, it will synchronize the user object to this domain controller because they are in the same domain. However, it does not synchronize the user object to this domain controller because it is in a different domain. Domain controllers are installed with administrative tools such as Active Directory domains and just Active Directory users and computers, Active Directory sites and services. These tools allow interacting with Active Directory database to perform administration tasks such as creating new accounts, setting up permissions, joining computers, servers to the domain, and engineering tasks such as creating group policies, setting up trusts, or creating new sites. DNS service on domain controllers enable clients to locate services and query Active Directory database. By interacting with client computers, domain controllers perform their tasks such as authenticate users' logon requests and authorize access to resources and applications, assign group policies to client computers and servers. A global catalog server is a domain controller that has an additional AD partition called global catalog. The domain controller synchronizes all of its objects, but only with partial attribute set or PAS to the global catalog. PAS are usually the attributes used to search or identify the objects. However, it is possible to configure an attribute to synchronize it to global catalog. The global catalog server then synchronizes its global catalog with other global catalogs in all the domains of the forest. After a full synchronization cycle, each global catalog has all the PIS objects of all domains in the forest. Therefore, global catalog servers enable DCs of one domain query objects from other domains of the same ID forest. Active Directory size allow to control replication, service location, and authentication. Active Directory size must be created based on the actual physical network connections with simple rules. DCs connected to each other via high-speed, reliable network connections must be put in the same site. DCs connected to each other via low-speed, unreliable connections must be put in different sites. So with these rules, these two domain controllers must be put in the same site, and this domain controller must be put in a different site. Active Directory size also allows to configure client subnets. Each subnet must be configured to use the nearest site which has high-speed, reliable network connection to the subnet. Clients belong to the subnet will locate the domain controller in the site for authentication and other services. So in this Active Directory size and services configuration, we see that GPVDC01 belongs to the default first site name, and the subnet 10.0.0.0/23 is configured to use the default first site name. Therefore, clients belong to the subnet 10.0.0.0/23 will locate GPVDC01 for authentication and other services.